So to start off with, just standing comfortably, not necessarily in a kind of, Tai Chi posture, whether you know it or not, or familiar with it or not, but just to get a sense of settling. Maybe if it helps, take a couple of slow, gentle breaths. The main thing is just to use your posture, maybe your breathing, as a way of just beginning to anchor your attention, to draw your thoughts in. We've all had to arrange things to get here, one way or another. To do anything, you have to sort of like think about your timing and your other responsibilities. Just take the opportunity to let those take a back seat. So you think something, you think of the body anchoring our attention. Remember somebody using an image of just leaving a jar of muddy water on the table and allowing the mud to settle and the water to become clearer. And with that extra clarity, a growing sense of your posture and of course your movements. And just bring your attention to the center part of your body and begin to turn there. Feel how that moves up through your body to your rib cage, to your shoulders. Don't force the movement. Try and have a sense for how much space there is in your body for movement. And one of the things that we're trying to cultivate is to increase that space. And so this is where we start to become concerned with our structure. We want to be able to find a way of standing, moving, that enables a release of tightness, a release of stiffness. So it's like if you're wearing a shirt or t-shirt that's half a size too small, you can never quite get the freedom of movement than if it's half a size too big or something like that. That applies to the body in the sense that we want to be able to feel that the soft tissue of the body in particular isn't inhibiting movement. Is the flow within the body. They become increasingly aware of patterns of movement, of expansion and contraction. So the posture that we're looking for is this one that brings us more into line with the pull of gravity. So we're not straining to, if I'm leaning over, I'm constantly trying to pull myself upright. One that allows, at the same time, for dropping of my center of gravity, rooting down. The lower your center of gravity, the more your weight drops down, the less you're having to strain to carry the weight on your upper body. And of course, it's the rooting down that also gives the stability to the movement. If I come a little bit closer, just make sure that you can still see. So the feet are directly below your hips. Bringing your weight forwards a little bit, and I'm exaggerating this a little bit, and then just allowing your hips to settle back in this sense of sitting down. And so that encourages this feeling of dropping and tightening your knees. The muscles of your legs will now begin to work hard. And one of the things over a period of time that we would do is through practice, condition those muscles so that they too begin to soften a little bit, to release them a little bit in this. And I would emphasize this is not a massive bend in the knees, it's a gentle dropping down. We can experiment with this a little bit in this exercise. Very gently pull your knees back deliberately. Obviously don't strain your knee, but pull your knees back and see what difference it makes to the movement. I find when I pull my knees back, I just sort of tighten up all around the center of the body and suddenly I'm struggling for the movement. But if I can just allow the hips to sink, yes, my legs will ache a bit, but I have a much freer feeling of movement in the upper part of the body. we often find that a sense of rhythm begins to build. Our bodies seem to resonate to a particular rhythm. That may engage your breathing as well. But in general, I would say, especially if you're watching this and you're new to the practice, just let your body breathe naturally. Turning your hands palm up, raise them up a little bit, no higher than your shoulders. And just down again. And then turn one foot out, step forwards, keeping the width of the step and moving forwards and backwards. Initially, we can think in terms of, if you like, sort of pushing ourselves forwards and backwards. I push from my back foot, I go forward. I push my back foot, I go forward. But even that that's a good starting point because it brings our attention to feet and the significance of this idea of moving from the ground. It's not quite accurate. It's not the end of the process, because what we begin to find is as our weight drops, so if I exaggerate, I go into my back foot, my weight sort of drops down, the leg bends, but then it pushes up. It's like a spring pushing me upwards. And instead of going up, I translate that movement forwards. And the same thing in the back foot. Imagine doing this on a trampoline or a bouncy castle. You'll sort of be bounced forwards and backwards. And so we see the significance of the connection to the ground and of course our feet and our legs responding to the pull of gravity by allowing gravity to sort of pull us down, to compress the legs a little bit. And from that, a movement and energy coming up. And this is a consistent process in all of the exercises, as we'll see. And then on the other side. And shake out. So I'm going to come a little bit closer, and here in the parallel stance, feet directly below your hips, just rocking your weight forwards and backwards. And when I go a long way back, I start to wobble around and I tense up, and likewise if I go forwards. And I'm just trying to find a point, to call it a point of balance, but I tend to think of it as a point of equilibrium, where I can come to rest. I'll show you with this pole, and you've seen this all before. If I rock the pole forwards and backwards, in theory, I can find a position for the pole where it's perfectly in line with gravity, and I could just let go of it, and that wouldn't happen. In practice, of course, that's quite difficult. So this is a theoretical idea, this line of equilibrium. More practically, if I were to attach guy ropes like you get in a tent to this pole, I could pin the guy ropes out, and that would also support the pole. So it would be a combination of the alignment and the support from the guy ropes. And we can begin to think of our muscles, tendons, ligament, fascia as being a bit like the guy ropes. So to find this sense of being able to rest in what we call in Tai Chi central equilibrium, we want to bring a kind of imaginary center line in the body to a point where it's in line with the pull of gravity, where the various muscles and so on of the body can engage, but not have to stiffen up, not have to tighten up. And again, there's that sense of my hips just sinking, the center of gravity dropping. A tent might be a good image of the kind of relationships between three areas, we could say. One is the frame of the tent, and we have a skeleton as a kind of inner framework. Another is the skin of the tent. So the frame on its own rarely stands up, but when you put the skin of the tent on and take it out, then it's a little bit more stable. And we might think of that as being certain muscles and the fascial layers and so on and so forth. And then there's the guide ropes, again, a bit like muscles and tendons and ligaments. And they all have a role to play. And the effort of maintaining this posture, the movements that come out of it, is spread a little bit through the whole of the structure. Now, if we think about a tent, the frame of the tent is crucial. You can get away with a couple of pegs missing or a couple of guide ropes not quite right. But if you lost a bit of the frame of the tent, you're not going to be able to do anything with it, and so on and so forth. But even so, there's a sense in which the effort is distributed throughout the body. And going back to the body rather than the tent, the whole body begins to become engaged. So then from this position, arguably, the quality of this stance is one that we're trying to maintain through all of the movements. Now, let our hips drop back just a little bit more. The knees will bend more, but not too much. Don't strain in your knees. And once again, just feel that there comes a point where your legs expand and push you up. And coming up, there comes a point where gravity takes over, pulls you. So we essentially sink down into the root and then expand out from it. And again, maybe just letting that settle into a nice steady rhythm. So we feel the body expanding, can have a sense of filling up, kind of filling up with energy, and then the energy draining away. So the push of your hips and pelvis into your back and your spine, so that movement up through your back, and then so again draining away, and that movement up through your back, just sort of expanding out through belly, solar plexus, and chest, and then finally bringing the arms around so you're cradling the ball, pushing up, elbows being pushed out a little bit, so you're lifting the ball, and then sinking down. You're pushing up round once again. And it's that movement, that rise in energy that moves the ball for you, and then allowing gravity to pull you down. Try not to pull your belly in, to hold your back tight, because as we sink back in our hips, our pelvis will adjust by just tucking under and allow that to happen. Try not to strain in the shoulders, and recognize that our attention very easily focuses primarily on our upper body and our arms in particular. So each time we sink down, we bring our attention back to our feet and recognize the significance of that. So we start to maintain that sense of our whole body, all those different elements as one whole unit working together. And this gives us the very characteristic quality of the movement in touching, this flowing, connected sense of movement, of energy flowing through the body. Kind of collected feeling in mind. So our awareness, our intentions are a key part of this. And, so all this sort of technical detail of the physical side of the posture, we're aware of what we're doing. We're bringing about tension and challenges. We have these three treasures of Tai Chi, the physical body, the structure, mind, awareness and intention, and the movement itself, the energy, harmonizing together. Now, as you sink down this time, just rotate your arms so your fingers point out, letting the expansion push your hands away from your body. Just notice how they naturally swing up. This is the wild goose. So, as always, imagery focus through our intention and have a profound effect on the body if it's the right image for us. It may be that the image of the bird in flight offers some kind of quality, a fluidity, grace of movement, strength of movement. But if the image offers nothing, don't let that put you off, and don't chase after the images. Sometimes there's a case for investigating these images or working with them more profoundly, but we don't want them to distract us from the actual movement. The images are there to enhance the movements. And then your hands drop down, cross in front of your belly, pushing up, just parting the clouds. Remember, sort of opening, expansive front. Note that I'm not stretching. At the top of the movement, notice my elbows are a little bit bent. I haven't sort of strained in my shoulders. So even at the extent of the movements, we still have that sense of spaciousness within the body for that internal. And this time, as you come down, let your hands curl under, going back to that initial exercise, noting down, doing one of each exercise in a sequence. Don't rush to change at the bottom of the movement, rotate your hands out, going into the wild goose. Your hands get down, level with your hips, but you continue dropping down, crossing over, going into parting the clouds. And then again, your elbows drop, your hands drop, just bending your elbows, curling under to cradle the ball again. And taking that sense of an awareness of what's happening within your body to a slightly deeper level, noticing the change from one movement to another, noticing the subtle changes in those patterns of expansion and contraction. So, for instance, and you might feel it slightly differently, but here, maybe just aware of that expansion in your belly, in your lower back. And then as we change to the wild goose again, expanding here, but as the arms come out, a little bit higher up in the body, maybe the solar plexus. And then as we go to part of the cloud, belly, solar plexus, and up into your chest. It's just an example of what I'm talking about. You may notice other changes as well. So from that quiet position of your mind, just observing changes. And this is something that as we become more experienced in these arts and in this aspect of bringing together body, mind, and energy through intentionality of one kind or another, find that we can begin to influence those subtle changes. So over a period of time, there's a slight switch in perspective. We copy these movements, and through the external movement, through the movement that we can see, we begin to notice changes within the body. And gradually, that reverses, it becomes the changes within the body that influence the external movements. It's not that the external movements aren't important, but it's where they're sourced. So the same movement can be viewed from different perspectives. One more round of this. Letting your arms drop down and then changing, focusing on one side of your body, expanding, pushing your arm up, winding the arm around as though you're plucking a soft fruit off a tree. Pull down. This is called dragon plucks to start. Focusing on the other side. So again, a change of name, change of image, change of intention. Change in those internal patterns. This is not mind over matter. We're not forcing our body into anything. We've noted what is happening within the body, and we cultivate what is useful. And it's like, you know, if you have a garden and you're growing stuff, you cultivate them. You encourage the growing, but the plant will still grow itself. You're not forcing anything. One more time. This time, when you come down, let your hand come down all the way. Just let your hips drop a little bit. In this posture, as we become used to it, gravity is given a free passage down through our body. If I put my knees back and put my hips in, suddenly there's a block here. I'm fighting against gravity. When I cease to do that, gravity will flow freely down through my body. My body will respond with this push upward, with this sense, you know, if it didn't do that, we would just collapse, wouldn't we? So even if we're not moving our hips up and down, it's important to realize that that flow of movement is still taking place within your body. And what we're trying to do is to facilitate that, to allow that in both directions. Then bringing your hands to your sides, beside the center of your body, beside your hips, and then pushing up, feeling the expansion and the contraction, letting your hands come back down to your side, bringing your attention to that central part of the body. And then expanding out from there, pushing out and turning just a little bit to direct your arms and back. And then in the other direction, And once again, bringing your hands and your attention back to the center part of your body. Finally, facing forwards and pushing. It's called pushing in four directions. Arguably, there are five directions here, because the returning movement is a direction in itself, back into the center, and with the spin of your center dropping towards the ground, and then the expansion outwards again. Not straining for the movement. One of the very common images, of course, that we use in Tai Chi is as though we're moving through water. So there's a sense of resistance there, but we sort of instinctively realize that if we stiffen up against the resistance of water, everything becomes harder work. We increase the resistance. And this is what led one well-known teacher called T.T. Liang to describe Tai Chi as swimming on dry land. That image of moving through water helps stimulate the flow of the movement. It also helps to develop a significant sense of strengthening, one that's based not on tightening the body, but on softening the body. A strength that is in itself more akin to water than it is to, say, hard concrete, steel, iron. And that works on a physical level, but also on an energetic level, a movement. The term sometimes used is inner strength, but I sometimes replace that with inner resilience. I think sometimes if we think too much about strength, we make certain assumptions that aren't appropriate. Every now and then, particularly as you bring your hands to this point, just take a moment to recall the memory of simply standing in central equilibrium. It's just a little resting position, not stopping the movement, just bringing your awareness back to central equilibrium and having the intention to return to that. So every expansion is followed by a contraction, which in its turn is followed by this moment of resting. I think of it as being like a comma in a sentence. And from that, we expand out again. We expand, contract. And then there's that little comma. And then again, we expand, contract. And then Tai Chi Classics, series of writings associated with Tai Chi through the ages. One of them uses the phrase that we seek the stillness within the movement. For me, this is a seminal aspect, a key aspect of the Tai Chi practice. It's interesting that we have that juxtaposition of two opposites, both the stillness and how they support each other. This time, bring your hand in and then dropping down and then expanding, feeling the expansion on one side of your body once again. This time, letting push your hand out so your arm swings up. And when it's in line with your nose and your navel, the center line of your body, drop it straight in. And then again. And straight back. Again. This time when your hand reaches that top position, turn just a little bit to draw your arm across. Sure you don't turn too far and throw your posture out and create tension within the body. And then changing sides. Notice if there's any significant difference between one side of your body and another. There quite often is. Once again, with the turn. One more time. Now letting your arms just hang down and focusing your attention in this area from hips and pelvis to waist, but in particular the pelvis at this point, and gently tilt your pelvis forwards, pushing your hips back. And notice what that does to your head. It brings your head and shoulders forwards. Let gravity pull your hips down and very carefully just maybe tilt back a little bit. So the last two exercises, we saw how when we rotate horizontally in the center of the body, it directs our arms. Here we can see when there's that vertical rotation, how it affects the positioning of our head and shoulders, and ultimately the alignment of the body. And also how here, if I simply allow my hips to drop, let gravity pull my hips down, that will bring my head up. We'll go in the backward movement now. Just go from the forward position, let your hips drop down, and bring the head up. Again, if I use the pole to illustrate something, it's like if I've got the pole there, and maybe if I've got a weight on the end of it, I could struggle to lift up that weight. But if I simply push down on that end, the leverage will bring the top of the pole up. Now, it's a very short lever, it has to be said, but it does mean that gravity pulling on our hips helps us to come upright, rather than gravity being something that we have to strain against. And we can see the significance of this central part of the body and its connection downwards to the ground. So this is an evolution of that general awareness that we started off with, becoming quite specific again, quite detailed. And with the awareness, with the attention, comes the intentionality. We're literally moving from our center, as well as moving from the ground. We're going to use this movement, the next two exercises, to go nice and easy and carefully in the back and your knees. This time, as you push your hips back, drop down a little bit. Then let gravity pull the hips down, come to the upright position. And then as you push up, let your arms follow, a little bit like the wild goose that we did earlier, but now sinking down, hips going back, and that causes your head and shoulders and your arms to swing forwards and then coming back to the upper. So you're rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. Noticing that what we're given here is an opportunity to find a different way of coming upright, one that doesn't involve a strain in our shoulders or our neck, our back or our heads. So we come up with a nice, smooth, open action. So our heads were just floating up. So this further develops this very open posture that allows that internal flow of movement. Now, still using this movement, but this time bring your hands palm down, turn horizontally, then push your hips back so your hands slide forward, swing your hips across carefully, come to the upright position and back to. This is called polishing the table. Movement in the center of your body, drawing your arms around in a nice smooth circle. Be careful that you don't overextend your arms. Again, so you can see from the back. Push my hips back. It's a little bit exaggerated. I swing across, I come to the upright position, and I come back to the center again. There's that comma in the center. And then I move out again, and around, and polishing the table. One more time. And then once again, come back to standing, to central equilibrium. See if you can just allow the center part of your body to drop to the ground. So this central part of the body becomes an increasingly crucial point of focus. We could argue that I talked about that quality of the stillness within the movement, and this is a good focal point, a good location for that stillness. It sits at the center. One of the descriptions again in the classics, it's like the hub of a wheel, and the hub of a wheel fits into the frame of the vehicle and stays still while the wheel moves around it. Again, we have that juxtaposition of stillness and movement. And it's a very useful thing to focus on. One of the great takeaways, I think, one of the great outcomes from Tai Chi practice is this sense of calmness, this stillness, for all that it's a very dynamic art. And it's very useful to have a location for that. If we have a location for that, we could think of the center of the body, or we could think of the ground, or we can think of a combination of the two. And we become accustomed to bringing our attention back to that. And we hardwire that into the nervous system over a period of time, so that it becomes a place, almost like a place we can go to rediscover that quality of stillness, of calmness. Now, changing the stance, keeping the feet hip width apart, turn one foot out and step forward with the other. Notice you can see the background between my legs. And once again, we did this earlier, but moving from one leg to another, moving your weight from one leg to another. Giving yourself a moment to settle into each leg. Feel that sense of compression. Feel the push that comes out of that. Again, like you were standing on a trampoline or a bouncy castle. feel it, and then like a wave coming through your upper body to begin with just rests on your hips. So what we've been, the transfer of weight is a very dynamic process. You'll see, and when we go into the other exercises, you know, making use of that. You're going to sense something a bit more happening in the upper part of the body. Once again, just apply that image of moving through the water. So if I'm in my back leg and I move forwards, if I'm in water, the resistance of the water will push my shoulders back. But I don't want that to happen. I want to remain upright. So as I go forwards, there has to be an adjustment in front of the body. Likewise, as I go back. And as before, it's not a strained adjustment. So we begin again to get a sense for subtle changes within the upper body. Each time when you go forwards, as you settle into the front leg, push your back knee forward so your heel comes up and you're shifting a little bit more over the front leg. And back, raising your toe, front toes, and so you gradually get more weight flowing down through one leg and begin to align your upper body over that way. So we want to get a bit of our head being in line with our foot. Hips dropping back, pelvis remaining level, so that helps us to maintain this upright position, allowing gravity once again, that free passage from the crown of our head right down to the sole of the foot. And then when you're in the back leg this time, just bring the front foot in, this, and then step out, put your heel down, lower the toes, gently press the foot into the floor, and let go of it. And the back foot in. When you step back, put the ball of your foot down first, lower the heel, gently press in. We call this planting the foot. So again, there's a sort of gardening reference here. Cultivate these movements. Just aligning yourself over the leg, letting your center of gravity drop, moving the foot. If you find that you're stiffening up, try and just let everything settle, take your time. Try this on the other side, so from the parallel stance. Imagine parallel lines, like tram lines, going across the floor. So you turn one foot out and you step along that tram line with the front foot. Once again, just transferring your weight. One of the ways we can deepen this awareness of weight transfer is by thinking about the distribution of the weight, the ratio of the weight. When we're in the back foot, we have 70% of our weight in the back leg, 70, 30. When we go forwards, it's 60% in the front leg, 30 in the back. Maybe less than that, maybe, but no more than that at the moment. It's really referring to that. I mean, it's difficult to measure, isn't it? You don't know you'll get exactly 70%, but bring your attention inwards to the weight transfer in sense. This is really crucial for our mobility. Keeping the center of gravity down with the stability. You've got the dynamic quality of the weight transfer. So this is an important exercise. But then we can begin once again to raise toes and heel, and that percentage of weight will increase. until eventually we find that we're able to step in. The step that we take is wider than our normal step, somewhat shorter, so we shouldn't need to sort of like strain, take the step, just extend the leg out, put the heel down. And then this time, bring your foot in, step through. Go forwards or backwards, whichever is more convenient for you. Again, give yourself a moment just to settle in. Introduce that comma in the sentence. And then going back, you might want to put the toes down as I just did there. If you're comfortable with this, you may even just leave the foot up in the air. And shake hands. When we do that exercise, it's a wonderful opportunity to just investigate and have a sense of what's happening when we walk. We rarely, those of us who we've had a problem with mobility, you probably thought about it a lot more. But if you haven't, we often take just taking a step for granted. But there's a great deal going on. And Tai Chi can do that. Tai Chi can draw your attention to everyday movements and just reveal something about it. Again, this contributes to the stillness within the movement. When I think about this, I always think about the wonderful lines from the poem Leisure by W.H. Davis. It starts off with the two lines, "What is this world if full of care? We have no time to stand and stare." And it sometimes feels as though Tai Chi encourages that moment of just standing and staring, that moment of awareness. Now have your right foot forward, so mirror my movements. With your arms hang down by your side, your weight back, easing forwards and just letting your arms swing through. It's called fisherman casting. Very simple and straightforward. And again, just noticing changes, patterns of expansion and contraction in your upper body as your arms swing, not straining in your shoulders. Letting that dynamic quality, that dynamic energy of the weight transfer, once again, coming from the legs into your back, into the whole of your upper body. Rooted in the feet, transmitted through your legs, directed, guided through the center of your body, and expressed through your upper body and bones. Now this time as you go into your back foot, just turn to your left, still letting your arms swing, but the turn in your center, drawing them across your body. Feeling the expansion in that right side of your body as they swing up in front. And that left side of your body as they swing up in front. This time as you go back, focusing on that expansion inside of your body, pushing your arms up. And then forwards and turn, drawing your hands down across the front hip, turning, expanding at the right side of your body. So here, Hands are palm down, then you turn them palm up as they rise, rotating at the top of the movement, palm down. Don't let your hands come above shoulder height. Don't extend them too far from the body. Ideally, what you would do is you will feel that movement coming up from the ground, that sense of the rising, expanding energy, and just observe where that takes your arm, not straining for more. If you decide you feel you want a bigger movement, this is where we would have the intention to develop and cultivate those internal movements to strengthen the way. And then just so the same movements with your left foot forwards, keep the width of your step, starting as before with fisherman cast the net. Here we can feel that wave-like movement rising from the ground. A very simple, very lovely exercise. So this is a good exercise to practice all these aspects of becoming aware, developing our intention, without the complication of some of the movements that we do. I'm not saying that the more complicated movements aren't significant by any means, but it doesn't have to be complicated. And often it's the simpler movements where we find we're more able to bring our attention into our movements. And then turning. Building the movement. And this actually creates a sort of sideways figure of eight. You could imagine that shape in front of you. Your body, particularly your arm, maybe your whole body, flowing into that shape. Again, noticing how these three treasures of body, mind, and movement, energy, harmonize and blend together to produce the overall movement. And we combine this with the step, and again, you can go forward or backwards depending on where you have room. As your arms come up, you bring the empty foot in, plant the foot forwards or backwards, and then. And again, if it's comfortable for you, maybe finding that you can just, as your arms come up, raise your knee, extend out. And then bring back. And then. So. Open your hands. Tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. And one shoulder. Your arm. And the other side. And below that. Round your hips. Belly. The upper part of the chest. Going back to that idea of central equilibrium and the way that we use imagery, and one of the images for central equilibrium that I really like is of the mountain. Encapsulates many of the qualities of something that's quite strong, deeply rooted. You can imagine the roots of the mountain, but also a sense of spaciousness there, a stillness. But also there's a dynamic quality, a dynamic element. So for me, it's a good image. This last exercise is called Embrace Tiger, Return to the Mountain. I really like to use this image in this movement because I'm very aware that I'm not always in central equilibrium, but Tai Chi offers us a way back to that. So as you go through this final pattern, maybe just aware of what it is that's drawing you back. It might be the image of the mountain or a sensation in the body. Once again, this way of just accessing this quietness, this stillness, the sense of being centered in body, mind, and energy. Start by sinking down and then pushing up, and then letting your arms come around as though you're going to hold a ball against your chest. Elbows drop, drawing your hands in, and then sinking down, coming back to them. Finally, just coming to rest. Once again, just standing, maybe taking a couple of slow breaths. Lovely. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining in once again. Thanks for coming along.